it was a flying saucer or what it was. It wasn't an airplane. It was not an airplane. It was down awfully low.
You're listening to Pursuit of the Paranormal Podcast with your hosts, Ash Ellis and Greg Tomlinson.
Hey guys, thanks for joining. This episode, I am joined by the absolutely amazing Craig Bryant, author of The Shadow Man of Accrington and The Black Monks of Accrington. He's also the host of the Paranormal Pendle Podcast. He's such a great guy. We had such an amazing conversation. It's just me again tonight. Ash will be back next episode. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, welcome back, Craig. It has been a long time since we've actually had you back on the podcast. It's just me tonight. Ash has been busy for the last month or so, but how is it going? How's things? And what have you been up to?
Good. Yeah, everything's been great. Thank you. Yeah, my podcast is still plodding along. I'm still not as prolific as you and Ash. I tend to do once every couple of weeks. But you know, I find that's a good frequency for me. The feedback I get from people that listen to the podcast and watch the YouTube channel is really good. I've been doing quite a bit of guesting recently, which has been great. Brilliant to be asked back on by yourself. It has been a while. I did a podcast yesterday actually, and I did one a couple of weeks ago with Paul Sinclair, which was really good. It was a bit of a last minute thing. He does tend to drop these requests on you on the day before, or even on the morning, as he did with me with this one. But it was good actually, because I've picked up quite a few new subscribers on my YouTube channel, which is great. So if I can give that a bit of a plug as well, because that really seems to be taking off.
Go for it, yeah.
So yeah, I'll let you know all the links later on. Yeah, I'm looking at working on a new book. It's something that I've been mulling over for a while, and I've had lots of different. I mean, you know what it's like when you're writing these books. You Google something, and you find that there's 50,000 books already been written on the subject. So I've been trying to find something that's a little bit different. Got a couple of ideas. One which I'm starting doing some research on at the minute, which I won't go into too much detail. But the other one actually is about boggarts. I'm going to talk about boggarts, or what is called a boggart in sort of Lancashire, Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, that sort of area, but malevolent spirits, really. Sort of in folklore, they tend to be more outside spirits than inside spirits. Mm-hmm. So in Lancashire, for instance, they inhabit things like, you know, farm gate posts, and mill ponds, and you know, those sort of places. So they're more sort of folklore. But I certainly think there's a link with poltergeists. I know we've talked about poltergeists quite a bit in the past.
Yeah.
And I certainly think there's a link with poltergeists, that, you know, people just used to call them boggarts, back in the old days. So, and of course they're spread out right across the whole country. They're just called different things. It tends to be called, as I say, boggarts more in the north, and then when you get up to sort of Cumbria and up in Scotland, they're called different things. And again, you know, if you get down to the Midlands and further south, and down in the southeast especially, they're called different things again. So that's something that I'm hoping to look into. There's been a few books written on the subject in the past that I know of, but I think I want to sort of try and bring it up to date a little bit. But that one's probably on the back burner. The other one, which I can't really mention too much about at the moment, is the one that I'm going to try and work on first, if possible. So
Yeah. So when you mentioned the word boggart, first time I heard the word boggart was on Harry Potter. I wouldn't have even known what one was, to be fair.
Yeah,
I don't know if that resembles what one is.
I do not know anything about Harry Potter.
Okay.
I possibly must be the only person in the world who doesn't. I read about 3 pages of the first book, put it down, never picked it up since.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Never
Yeah,
seen,
it's
never
like,
seen the films. Never seen the films. Never watched,
oh
anything like that.
my God.
Um, I know, I know. I think I'm just weird, obviously. Um, Boggarts. The word boggart really is. I mean, it's a really old folklore word.
Right.
Um, from what I know of the author, she borrowed lots of things from different places. Uh,
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what is a boggart in her book?
Let me get the description. Boggart, Harry Potter. Yeah. So in Harry Potter, a boggart is a mortal shape-shifting non-being that embodies fear, instantly transforming into a person's worst fear upon encountering them. So if you scared a ghost, clowns, for example, it would appear to you as a clown. And part of one of the films was they would do sort of spells, and that everybody would line up. They'd take it in turns, and
Yeah.
this boggart would come out, and it would appear in all their fears, and you got to see the people's fears. So I don't know if that relates to anything at all.
Not much really
No,
from
fair enough.
in sort of folklore that I'm aware of. It's not they're not shape-shifting type of
Hmm.
entity. They're more a mischievous, impish, poltergeisty type thing. But as I say, they are more associated, certainly in Lancashire, with outdoor places rather than indoor places.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
rather than a sort of poltergeist that's throwing things around in a house, they sort of inhabit um, places outdoors. And as an example, over on the Foul Coast, there is a boggart which is known locally as Ginny Greenteeth that lives in a pond on the Foul Coast, and the story is that it used to lure children into the pond and drown them.
oh
So
wow.
that's the sort of folklore that surrounds them. They're that type of, nasty, malicious, mischievous spirit.
Yeah, because I'd not heard of them being sort of a real, I say a real thing, like a
Mm.
folklore thing. I imagined based on the books and the films, they were based on something.
Yeah,
And there's me, bearing in mind what I look into all the time. I'd not heard of it. And folklore stuff is something we have touched on the podcast,
yeah,
and like fairies and such like in that weird spelling FEARIES, fairies.
yeah.
The more of the folklore stuff.
Mm.
But no, not heard of those. So that's interesting. I'll be interested to read about that. It's the
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
stuff that sort of over the years and like centuries in particular, there's always some kind of stories passed down about certain things, and they become part of, like you say, up north they'd be called something, in the Midlands they'd be called something else.
yeah,
Like in the US, you've got Sasquatch. In the UK, you've got the Wild Man,
yeah,
and it's cool that there are different terms and the locality seems to mean a lot
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's I was down in Suffolk recently, and I was talking to somebody about a big the legend of a big black spectral dog called Black Shuck. Now, again, there's something very similar up here in Lancashire, and in fact, Black Shuck or Padfoot, as it's better known, is something that's quite embedded in local folklore. Really interesting one. The city of Preston. It's a city. Yeah, it's got city status now, but it was just a town for a long time. But they had the legend of a headless black dog, which surprisingly still howled even without a head. And it was always the harbinger of doom and death. And people would hear it, and it would be a foretelling of somebody in the family soon to pass away. Um, so yeah, you get the same sort of things, I think, across the country. You certainly get the same similar stories all over the place, really. But they're invariably called different things, or there are slight sort of subtle differences. But I mean, I find folklore and um, it's leading into the paranormal. I think it's really interesting because a lot of what is probably unexplained paranormal activity going back centuries has sort of been embedded into folklore, because it was the only way that they could explain what was going on. They didn't, have any other explanation for it. So yeah, if you hear a spectral hound howling in the middle of the night, um, get
Hope
your
not.
get your get get your insurance policies out just in case.
Come under act of God, I think. I think they're probably just interesting you said Padfoot because Padfoot is another reference in Harry Potter to
Right.
a black dog.
Okay.
Um,
Mm.
Look at that.
Does
You need to watch Harry Potter.
no, it just wind me up. It just wind me up so
If
much.
you watch the films, I think the books are good to be fair, but
Yeah.
I like the films. I'm a bit of a Harry Potter geek from
Right. Well,
way back when.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean we all have our
Vices.
preferences, don't we? We all have our little vices. But it's just something I've never got into,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, not that much removed from it, really. Lord of the Rings. Now, if you want to talk to me about Lord of the Rings, I'll happily talk for hours and hours and hours about it.
Never seen
Um,
one. Never read
no,
one.
no,
No.
see, weird, isn't it? Now you
Yeah.
see, Tolkien wrote when he wrote the Lord of the Rings, and obviously he wrote The Hobbit first. He based it very much on this area that I live in. So his son was at a very exclusive private school, which is still running today, called Stonyhurst College.
Okay.
Your listeners can look it up. And Tolkien used to visit there quite a lot, and so he based the Shire on the Ribble Valley, which is
Okay.
where I live, close to Pendle Hill. And there's quite a lot of references in certainly in The Hobbit as they're traveling along that you can almost sort of pinpoint to areas, within this particular part of the country. So he obviously drew quite a lot of inspiration from the landscape around him. So
Yeah.
um, you know,
It's
uh,
interesting you should say Tolkien as well,
mm,
because we've got a place local to us called Wayland Smithy, which is a long barrow, which is a long barrow is something I'd never heard of until last year.
yeah,
And for those that don't know, they're like Neolithic burial
mm,
chambers. I've been to a few of them now, and they're fascinating. But this
yeah.
particular one at Wayland Smithy, we've got the White Horse Hill,
Oh yeah,
and it's about a mile walk from there. Luckily, I went a different way, but upon looking into what Wayland Smithy was, this long barrow, it's believed to inspired Tolkien's Barrow Downs.
yeah,
So that was quite cool. So
yeah.
that's a cool reference to Tolkien. And I've never seen read Tolkien's. I've never watched any Lord of the
No.
Rings.
Well, the Lord of the Rings, the first film misses out quite a lot of the first book anyway. So they sort of gloss over a lot of that early part of the book.
Yeah.
But I mean, interestingly, the top of Pendle Hill, there's a I think it's either Iron Age or Bronze Age. I can never remember which. But they found a burial up there on the top of Pendle Hill, which is interesting because it's 2,000 feet above sea level almost. I
Mhm.
mean, it's nearly a mountain.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't
It's just a few feet short of a mountain,
it?
which is something that's been leveled at me a few times. Um, but why ancient man would want to, take a body up there and bury a body up on the top of Pendle Hill, because it doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
You've got to get the body up there. You've got to get everybody up there. And it's really steep and really, it's a really unpleasant place. 364 days of the year when the weather's not very nice.
Is it ever
When the weather
nice weather-wise up north?
No, well, it is, and if you get a nice day where it's sunny, and it's clear,
Yeah.
and you walk up, it's quite a hefty walk. It's not for the faint-hearted. There are two or three different routes up there.
Mm.
One is the shortest one's really steep, and that's up from that's over what they call the shoulder of Pendle, which is the steep bit. If you imagine, it's sort of like a half a teardrop on its side.
Okay.
And so the steep bit is the hard walk, but it's the shortest. And if you go up and you get up there and it's a nice day and it's a clear day, you can see 360 degrees. The views are well worth the fact that you will be knackered when you get up
Yeah.
there, and you'll need to sit down. Um, the views are just spectacular. You can see for well, you know, a long, long way. And you can see right up to the Yorkshire moors, and you can see up to Cumbria. You can see over to the coast, and all up that area up there, and you sort of realise really just how uninhabited it is. We are not a particularly. People say that we're quite an over-inhabited island, and I talk to people about. I was talking to Paul about this, Paul Sinclair about this with, when we were talking about big cats and cryptids and that sort of thing. And it's something like about 93 or 94% of the country is actually unpopulated. And when you come up to somewhere even like this in the northwest of England, which
Yeah.
is, there's a big population up here, but it's all crammed into Liverpool, Manchester, Blackburn, Burnley, Accrington, those sort of Lancaster. But everywhere else, there's just nothing. And it's quite amazing, really, just how much autumn land there is, autumn countryside.
Yeah, it's strange because so down here in Oxfordshire, there's quite a lot of open space, and then where I've been coming up to the northwest a lot, and we go from Manchester, and then on to sort of Leeds and so I'm still learning some of these places or where they are. I know
Bit of a,
what
bit
I
of
know
a
what
culture
Leeds is.
shock. Bit of a culture
But
shock.
even just going towards Leeds from Manchester, not even far out of Manchester, it just goes completely, almost like Oxfordshire. It goes completely open and grassy, and it's not something that I imagined. So it is
No, but you've got
completely different.
Saddleworth, which has obviously got connotations in itself, especially if you live in the northwest of England. If somebody mentions Saddleworth, you immediately, unfortunately, think of what went on there. But you've got the Peak District as well. You've got Saddleworth. You've got the North Yorkshire Moors. You've got West Yorkshire, which is actually you know very picturesque. There's a lot of very picturesque little villages and towns and stuff. And then sort of north for me, you've got Forest of Bowland, and you get to Lancaster, and then up from there you've got Cumbria, and all that area. So and then the North Yorkshire Moors. So there are massive areas really. I mean, like I say, I talk about this a lot when I talk about things like big cat sightings and cryptids and that sort of stuff. There's massive amounts of area, land that these things can just be in that you'd never see them.
So talking about cryptids,
Mm.
what's your take on the UK sort of wild man, that kind of creature? Because me and Ash, we've been up to we go to Delamere a lot. And one of
Yeah.
the last times we went out in Delamere, I said to Ash, look, while we're here, there's reports of cryptids and all sorts. I
Mm.
said, why don't you do like a Bigfoot cry or call or whatever you want? I don't know what you call it. So he done this whooping noise and nothing. And bearing in mind, this was, I don't know, about 11 o'clock at night. It was sleeting a bit. It was a bit rainy. It was a gorgeous night to be in a forest, to be fair. And then we were coming round to one of the parts of Delamere that we always go to because we always get some weird things happen. And then all of a sudden, everybody was like, "Did you hear that? We got it on our TikTok and social media. There's a similar kind of sound being repeated about 3 times in the distance, and we can't figure out where. It's the weirdest thing, and we're
Yeah.
literally in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the forest. in the middle of the night. Nobody in their right mind would be out there that I
No.
would be aware of. But it was the weirdest thing. So do you? I know you mentioned there that there's lots of places where something
Mm.
like that could
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sort of cohabit with man, as it were,
Yeah, I mean,
humans without being
there's
found. What's your take on it?
well, I mean, there's a lot of sightings, isn't there? I mean, I've never seen anything, obviously. Um, but there's a lot of sightings, and whether or not they are sort of if you know our equivalent of a Sasquatch, for instance, or whether they are something which is different. Um, so when I was talking to Paul recently, he was telling me about a report that he got through, and it's on the podcast I did with him a few weeks ago, of three guys that were out wild camping somewhere up in North Yorkshire, and again, you know, very sparsely populated. And these guys went out and they went off the tracks, and they went into areas that people don't normally go into. And they were watched by something that observed them for not for minutes, but for hours, um, overnight while they were at a camping spot. And there were three guys. Two of them Paul spoke to. One of them didn't want to speak to him about it. But one of the guys said, "We are being watched, and it's watching us, and it doesn't want us to be here." Now, it's difficult to tell whether it was a humanoid type creature or whether it was something that was a little bit different. There's a lot of reports of, and I am somewhat skeptical of this, but there are a lot of reports of Dogman
Hmm.
up in
Yep,
that sort of area,
yep,
and I wonder whether it is something that's maybe not what it seems. There is something there, but is it a human body with a dog's head?
yeah.
I'm a bit,
It's
I'm a
really
bit,
difficult to
bit,
get your head
bit
around that, isn't it?
it is. I'm a bit skeptical about it. But then there's been so many sightings that there is definitely something up there. And I
Mhm.
think, I think, is it a Sasquatch? I don't know. Is it, our equivalent of that, our equivalent of the Australian Yowie?
Yep,
Um, I don't know. I really don't.
yeah,
There's something. There's something. There is something. I am more of the opinion. The more people that I speak to, there seems to be instances of them suddenly appearing and then disappearing. And you're not finding trails of these things that go on for miles. So that to me would suggest that they're appearing, doing something, and then disappearing. So are we talking something that's coming through portals? Are we talking about something that's coming through in some sort of interdimensional way,
yep.
rather than it being something which is living with us all the time that we just don't see? I don't know. It's an interesting story. The thing about Dogman is, and I don't want to be disparaging to people, and I'm sorry if it came across as that, because I do. At the end of the day, you've got to question what if you've got questions, you've got questions. And
Absolutely.
I find it a little bit difficult to believe that something like that exists. However, there have been from numerous sources that I know of that I've spoken to people and from different parts of the country where they have seen these types of dogmen type creatures. And on more than one occasion, in more than one location, they have chased cars as they've been driving along. And on two different occasions, the drivers of the cars have said that these things were running side by side with their cars as they were driving and they were accelerating and they were getting up to 30, 40, 50 mile an hour and these things were keeping up.
Mm.
And they were literally running by the side of the driver's door window. And they said that the heads looked like huge wolves or dogs.
It's
Um,
it's
and that is a
it's
bit,
just
now
a
that's
it's just a
different.
stretch of your imagination, is it? Like to comprehend something like that.
Absolutely. But these are two separate, completely
Mm.
separate reports that I've heard of recently. one from the northwest of England, one from the northeast of England. So two completely different places,
Yeah.
but the same MO, which is a little bit now. You could say, okay, well, one's heard the story of the other one, and they've said, oh yeah, that's happened to me, sort of thing. Um, so you can never be 100% sure of the validity of a story like that. And I think the best researchers really will always question these sort of things. They'll always look for logical answers, or a reasoning behind something, because it's very easy just to sort of fall into the trap of saying, oh yeah, these things exist. They definitely exist. But
Yeah.
without proof, I think it's quite difficult to sort of go down that route. But I do think I think there are portals involved. I
Yeah.
really do. I think there's something interdimensional going on. Um, and I'm quite getting into the multiverse theory at the minute.
Yeah.
Um, because I've had experiences that where something's happened and to me, things have changed only very subtly,
Mm.
but they have changed. Things are not quite the same as they used to be. And I wonder whether there are crossovers between, different planes of existence, if you want to call it that, different universes, if you want to go that far. Um,
What things did you notice changed?
well, yeah, COVID.
Okay.
I had COVID, and I've had it twice, but the first time I was quite ill, and I was out of it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks really. Um, and things just seemed different when I came back to my normal self. I've never fully recovered. I've got ongoing medical issues now, which um, I firmly believe are down to COVID. But um, you know, you won't get any medical um, professional who'll admit to it. I've got a family member who's involved in the health profession, and they are involved in a long COVID study at the minute. So I've spoken to that person. I won't say any more than that.
Yeah.
Um, Another one was, and this actually is this is a bit freakier. So this is going back probably 7 or 8 years ago now, and I had to have an operation on my hand, and it because it was such a delicate operation, I had to have a general anaesthetic. So I was in the anesthesia room, and it was actually although I was having it done in a private hospital, but it was NHS overspill in effect.
Yeah.
And this private hospital was an very old manor house. It's quite close here. It's not actually used as a hospital anymore now. It's a hotel, believe it or not. But it was like a quite an old sort of big house, stately home type thing that they'd um, used for many years as a hospital. And I was as I was on the waiting to be given the anaesthetic. I was chatting away to a nurse who was there, as well as the anaesthetist, and I was talking about. I've been told that this place was haunted by a certain individual. So I was talking to her and I said, have you seen this ghost of this particular person? And she said, oh yeah, I've seen it, and I know people who've had experiences, and oh yeah, it's definitely haunted, really sort of strange place and that. And then the anaesthetist said, right, we're gonna put you under. And then of course anybody who's had a general anaesthetic will know that as soon as you go under, you're back out again. There's no passage of time at all.
It's a weird feeling, isn't it? It's a
Very
weird
weird.
experience.
And I was under for about 2.5 hours apparently, because it was quite a delicate operation. And so of course I came around, and obviously I was a little bit groggy, but the same nurse was stood there, and I just said, okay, so go on then, tell me a little bit more about this ghost, and I mentioned the person's name, and I remember her there was a pause, and she said, "I don't know what you're talking about."
How what?
And I said, "Well, we were just chatting about it before I went under." Now I know that I was coming out of anaesthetic, and I know that things could have been, I might not have been fully compos mentis and what have you. But I know that I asked her the question, and I know she answered and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I had this really weird feeling that something was not quite right, and it hasn't been since. Things have been different from that point, just very subtly. Um, and people talk about the Mandela effect,
Mhm.
and things that they remember from childhood that were a certain way. I mean, there's the bear thing, isn't there? And there's other things as well.
Yeah.
The one that I remember is oil of Ulay. The cream that old ladies put on, try and make themselves look younger. But it's always been called oil of Olay, apparently. Apparently, oil of Ulay never existed. So it was
Mm.
Ulay. Now, a lot of
Yeah, I
people
remember you, Lay.
remember it as Ulay, yeah.
I remember
But
you, Lay,
but apparently, according to the company, it's always been Olay.
because it did change at one point. I remember it specifically when it was
A
like
lot of
GIF and
people,
SIF
a
and
lot,
stuff like that, kind of.
yeah. A lot of people do remember it changing, but also a lot of people remember it never changing because it's always been spelt with an O rather than a U. And there are other examples as well. I mean, there's something with Ronald McDonald, isn't there? There's something on his uniform, and
Yeah,
there's various other things. Now, whether that has got anything to do with um, jumping realities, I mean, they talk about sliding doors, don't they? Where you for instance, there's going to be now millions of different versions of this podcast because we'll be talking about different things. Instead of me, I'll suddenly start going talking about Lego, you know, as opposed to multiverse, or I might start talking about Cornetto ice creams. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? So you've got all these different, so they're going off now in different directions where I'm talking about, haunted ice cream cones. But um, whether people do, because I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people who've sort of said, things that, especially since COVID, things have subtly changed. And I know there's a massive sort of theory out there about the CERN
hmm
particle accelerator. Something happened. And there are, scientists who are now coming out saying there was this weird thing that happened, and
yeah,
this portal opened, and things haven't been the same
yeah. We did
since.
a podcast with somebody, and he seems to believe that Jeremiah Dorff, his name is in the US. I don't know. You may have spoken to him. Um, he believes that in 2012, when they switched CERN on, that time, the perception of time changed, so time sped up. Because I know that weeks and months fly by, years seem to fly by.
Yeah,
Whether that's because now I'm older, that a year of my life now is a lot short, like in the percentage of my life that a year is a
yeah.
lot smaller than it was when I was
Smaller
like
than it was.
5, and that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
20% of my life a
yeah.
year.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah,
So maybe that's it. But I definitely think weird stuff happens that we don't know about that creates differences for
yeah.
us, or it changes our reality, whether or not it's like the like a Mandela effect type thing, or like you said
Whether
with COVID.
whether or not we all change at the same time, or whether it's just individuals or groups of individuals that are maybe sort of in the same vicinity as each other. I don't know. Um, so yeah. I mean, I've sort of I was talking to you. I was just surreptitiously googling
Mm.
Ronald McDonald Mandela effect, because I think that's the one that a lot of people think about, and it's saying that a lot of people recall him having sort of curly, puffy hair,
Yeah,
or an afro,
which is
rather
what
than
I
the
remember,
actual
the
straight.
big
Yeah,
red
which is
puffy
me
hair.
too. Apparently, a lot of people remember him having straight red hair. So, and also, Um, the mask effect due to the 2016 clown sightings. Ronald McDonald was largely retired, leading to a disappearance that some misinterpret him as never having existed in the first place.
Wow,
So, so some people don't remember him. According to
that's mad.
it,
That's
isn't
mad.
it? But yeah, I mean the Mandela effect. Yeah, I mean, if there's anybody out there that happens to be listening to this and you know anything about the Mandela effect, please give me a shout because I'd love to chat to you about it. I mean, there's a lot of literature out there about it. It's just I think it's like anything else in it. It's um, you know sorting through the the good stuff rather than the maybe not so good stuff. You know.
So when we first spoke, so going back now, when we first spoke, you came on, you were talking about your book, The Shadow Man of Accrington. I want to revisit that because there are some people that probably haven't listened to our early episodes. If not, why not? But
Do it.
but we're about 370 episodes now, so I can get why people go, I'm not going all the way back now. That's time investment, that is. Um, and interestingly, you said about the Australian Yowie. That was our first episode was about Yowie.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, we got you on to talk about the Shadow Man of Accrington. And the Shadow Man is a really interesting, I say character. I don't want to. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's not really the right word.
Experience. Yeah, experience.
Yeah, and a lot of men, a lot of people see a top-hatted dark figure across the world. People. So, do you want to briefly explain about your experiences?
Yeah, well, it was just a classic sighting. I mean, going back 40 odd years now. I was
Don't
working
think
in
it was that long ago.
I know, tell me about it. Well, I keep telling everybody I've got a significant birthday coming up this year, and it's not 40, so you know you can stop. You know,
Well, you're not much older than me then. I just hit 49 this year.
right.
So,
Well, if I'll let you into a secret, don't tell your listeners, right? But I'm 60 this year.
I don't believe that. I
Yeah,
genuinely do not believe that.
I know you know the passage of time, as you're saying, it really
It's been
does flick.
kind to you.
Thanks. It's sympathetic lighting. That's what it is,
We
Greg.
did talk about the lighting
We did
beforehand.
talk about lighting, yeah. So yeah, going back, yeah, 40 odd years now, I was working in it was a working men's club. Well, working men's club. It was the Conservative Club in Accrington, which was a big old 19th century building, magnificent place. It was on sort of like three floors. There were bars on all the floors, and they used to do functions and all sorts of stuff. And they had a big ballroom on the third floor, and it was I've only found out since that it didn't particularly bother me when I worked there when I was like 18 years of age, but it was a sprung dance floor, and the only other one in the country is at Blackpool Tower Ballroom. Now unfortunately it's gone now. The building's gone. It burnt down. Yeah, because it was run by back in the sort of late 80s when I was working there. It was run by a local brewery, and then they sold it because it wasn't making any money, and it was turned into like a sort of nightclub type place. And then it that closed. I think there was some financial problems, and then the next thing it succumbed to arson. So unfortunately now it's just literally a shell of what it used to be. But it was an amazing building, and there was a lot of stuff going on there. There was a lot looking back, there was a lot of paranormal stuff really that other people had seen as well. I mean, other people used to mention weird stuff. I mentioned in the book about some poltergeist activity that I experienced when I was up on the third floor in the ballroom, and that was quite interesting. But yeah, I saw this shadow man figure, and I say he'd been seen before. Apparently, I didn't know um, that he existed until I'd actually seen him, and then I mentioned it to somebody else, and he said, "Oh, he's been seen lots and lots of times in that particular location." And it was your sort of classic, very tall, thin um, hat, tall, almost like a stovepipe hat. So if you imagine like a Victorian type gentleman's hat, one of those type things. Um, and then, yeah, very, very tall, very thin. He'd been seen with sometimes apparently been seen wearing what somebody described as like a sort of um, like a fedora type hat as well. So, f to me, it looked like a sort of tall hat. It may well have
Yeah,
been,
yeah,
something because it wasn't, it was fairly fleeting, you know, the time that I saw it, but it was just sort of classic, very tall, slim, dark, shadowy figure. There were no facial features or anything like that. It was just almost like a sort of smoky outline, if you like. But it was definitely, you could definitely make it out what it was, but there was no definition there. There was no features or anything
right,
like
right.
that. And yeah, I mean, it was quite jarring at the time. I mentioned it, as I said, to somebody else who worked there, and he said he said he'd seen it. There'd been other reports from people who'd worked there over the years who had seen it as well. And it had caused, on more than one occasion, quite a stir. People had become quite hysterical and left and
No,
never come
definitely.
back. Yeah, so that was interesting. Interestingly, um there's been reports of a particularly unpleasant poltergeist in a shop close by, to where the place the club used to be, um, a road called Warner Street in Accrington, which um, has got historically a lot of poltergeist activity and a lot of ghost stories and so on surrounding it, murders and all sorts of stuff. And I go into that in a little bit more detail in the second book that I wrote. But yeah, this particularly nasty poltergeist uh, introduced itself to the investigators as Josiah, called himself Josiah. There are possible links with a murder which took place at a building, a shop, just across on the opposite side of the road from where this investigation was going on. And this poltergeist was quite physical, actually pushed somebody down a set of stairs. Um, I know which property it is, but I'm not at liberty to say because the lady that owned the shop was quite distressed, I think, by what was going on in there, which is why she'd called in this local investigation group that I spoke to about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I won't go into too much more about that because it's quite an interesting story if you want to read it. It's in the second book. Second book's called the Black Monks of Accrington. Really, because there was an abbey, which burnt down it was about 1170, something like that. It was burnt down actually by the local farmers who had the land taken off them to build this abbey. It was actually a descendant of one of the knights that came over with William the Conqueror. So I don't know whether you're aware that when William the Conqueror became William the First of England, he basically nicked all the land off the Saxon lords who'd owned all the land prior to the invasion, and gave all the estates to his favourites and the knights and the aristocracy that came over to fight with him, when he won the Battle of Hastings, and a big area of land up around here was given to a guy called Richard de Lacy,
Okay.
and he was descended from one of the knights who was one of William the Conqueror's favourites. So he was given the land, he built an abbey. The local farmers were not particularly happy about the fact that the land was stolen, so they burnt the abbey down. And there were a number of monks, unfortunately, who were still inside the abbey when it was burnt down.
Mm.
There is there's a street called Black Abbey Street in Accrington, which is obviously, named after the fact that there was an abbey there. And one of the local ghost stories, and again, this was a story that I knew from being quite young. People always used to talk about the screaming lady of Black Abbey Street who appeared to people as a burning effigy, which which is interesting. I mean, there is a story that it was actually a young woman who fell in love with one of the monks at the it's your usual love story. And she was well, he was killed by her brothers, her family.
Right.
And then she sort of, committed suicide. Very similar, actually, to the White Lady of Salisbury Hall. Very similar story. So you tend to get all these stories that are quite sort of similar. I think
Yeah.
they all bear the same sort of, love story involved. But interestingly, she's seen as a burning effigy, and there's, the legend doesn't mention anything about the fact that she burnt to death, but she's seen as the ghost of this burning woman, and she's seen floating down Black Abbey Street screaming, and quite a few people apparently have seen her. They reckon they've seen her, so that's interesting. That's again, that's quite close to this area of Warner Street. And indeed, very close to there as well is the police station and courts at Accrington, which were at one time, not too long ago, they were being run by the most haunted people
Okay.
as locations to go and do, ghost hunts and all that sort of thing. I'm not quite sure whether they're still doing it or not. It seems to have gone a bit quiet. But there was a lot of activity there. Apparently, a lot of poltergeist activity, especially in the police station, in the courts and the cells underneath. One of my very early podcasts actually was with a guy who'd been on one of them, so that's
Okay.
quite interesting. A guy called Eden. I think it was second or third podcast I did. So yeah,
Back in the early days.
back in back in the very early days, yeah, when I wasn't out but a nipper.
It's interesting that you talk about all the history. It's something that I hated at school, history. I absolutely just I couldn't get around why I was learning about stuff that had already happened rather than learning about stuff that will help me for the future.
Yeah,
But since we've been doing the paranormal stuff and going to all these locations and doing the podcasts and like as I say, I found out what a long barrow was only
yeah, yeah,
last
yeah.
summer. And then I'm like, oh my God, that's really interesting. Why I've never learned about that before.
Yeah.
And all these kind of stories that you pick up on all these different accounts that lead to all this history that had I not been into the paranormal, I would never have known.
Oh.
Like for example, like you mentioned the Black Monks,
Mm.
or the Abbey with the
Yeah, yeah.
monks. We went to Pontefract recently
Oh
to
yeah.
the 30 East Drive, the Black Monk of Pontefract. And as part of an episode that me and Ash did about that, we learnt that there was actually, that wasn't the poltergeist activity. It was a family in the house way before that experienced poltergeist activity. So it wasn't like this, the famous family. And it's only since doing all this research that I've learned so much. Like I've got a folly. I don't know if you know what a folly
Right.
is. So we got a folly just at the top of my road where I live now. So I go up there quite a lot late at night, have a little walk round. They've done it up like a little enchanted wood. And the history of that goes like back 1,000 years. And I've learned all about it being part of Oliver Cromwell and all of these. It was the names of things up there that because of where the hill was. It was the front line on the English Civil War, or some
Yeah.
of it. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I would never have known that if I
Mm.
wasn't into the paranormal, really. So
Yeah, yeah,
got a
yeah.
lot to thank the paranormal
Yeah,
for.
there was a battle, I think, wasn't there, in Oxfordshire in the Civil War?
Hmm. I
I
was
think
just
was
trying to call it up as well, so I
yeah, no,
could
you're right. Wasn't
look
I
down.
think it was I think it was the one where King Charles was up a tree or something.
Hmm.
Um I think that's possibly the one. Yeah, I mean I'm married to a historian, so um a history
It's
teacher, so
actually, just interestingly, it was designated one of the only inland um, lighthouses.
all right, okay,
It's
yeah.
100 foot tall, and it was designated a lighthouse because they put a massive light on top to
Right,
commemorate the millennium.
right.
And for a short period of time, it was known as a lighthouse. It's one of the
Lighthouse.
only inland lighthouses. It's pretty mad. We went up there not long ago. You can hire it out. So went up there and we're standing out by the light, and you can see 5 different counties. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that I hadn't learnt
You
about.
wouldn't have known about if you hadn't become
Yeah,
involved.
exactly, exactly. So
Yeah.
it is it's such a the whole. So going back to the Shadow
Mm.
Man that you saw, do you believe it was a ghost? Do you believe in ghosts? And what
Well, I
do you
believe in
think ghosts
something.
are?
I believe in something,
Yeah.
whether it's the residual energy of somebody that's died.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Again, I think portals crossing over, planes of existence, universes. Is it a peek into somebody else's universe? Are we seeing somebody from another dimension and they're not quite coming through? So you're not seeing all of them. You're just seeing you know, a wispy outline or whatever. Um, the thing about ghosts is interesting because as you get older, you start to think about your own mortality, and you start to want to believe that there is something afterwards. And obviously, I listen to Brian Cox a lot, the scientist, not the actor. Um, A, because he's a mank. Well, he's from Oldham actually, but so he's irrevocably down to earth. He
Yeah.
won't. But I like his style, and I like the stuff that he talks about. And he talks about energy, not you know, energy can only change. It can't just dissipate. It can't disappear. It has to go. It has to go somewhere.
Mhm.
Um, and somebody once said to me, I mean, just going back to what we were talking about a minute ago about William the Conqueror, the Battle of Hastings. I'll ask you a question. Where were you at the Battle of Hastings? You were somewhere because what the energy that makes you up
Yeah.
had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So when you die, that energy still has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So does it go off to a different dimension? Um Does it go off into the stars, to be recycled? Is reincarnation a thing? Is that why people have these past life memories?
Hmm.
Um, and that sort of thing. Um, so is a ghost the spirit of somebody who's passed on? Maybe, who knows? I mean, I certainly think with things like poltergeists, there's intelligence there, and there's motive, isn't there? And
Yeah.
there's a will to do something,
Definite
whether it
intention
there's an
alongside.
intention, whether it be good or bad. Invariably, with poltergeist, it's bad, isn't it?
Yeah. It is.
But there is some intelligence there. So what's that all about? Is that something coming through from another dimension,
Hmm.
or is it the evil bits left over from when somebody passes on
Yeah.
that refuses to go and attaches itself to either a person, invariably, or a place, a building or a whatever?
Yeah,
Um,
it could be.
I mean, I was talking to somebody about AI, and how AI can sort of muddy the waters, really, when it comes to, especially now, video evidence of anything from, UFOs to ghosts and poltergeists and stuff. And I saw something on, I can't remember whether it was TikTok or whether it was YouTube. I mean, I've tried to distance myself away from as much social media now as I can, and I only use it really to promote the content that I do. So I've only got, I don't use Twitter or whatever it's called now. I
Oh,
don't use, yeah, I don't use Instagram very much. I don't use Reddit or anything like that because they're just all echo chambers to me. And once the algorithm gets hold of something, it just keeps pumping you full of, and you can literally, I can understand how people's mental health can get, quite badly damaged. But I saw something, and it was purportedly poltergeist activity in a kitchen, and I was peering at this thing, thinking, yeah, there's got to be fishing wire involved here somewhere, or it's got to be AI. It's got to slip up somewhere. Because invariably with AI, there is something a little bit off that you see, and you think, right, well,
yeah.
that's it. That's AI. But I couldn't see anything in this video. It was so convincing. And when I finished watching it, I thought, has that convinced me that it's true, that it's real, or have I just been duped completely into believing something that, you know? Um, so again, with poltergeists, is it this evil energy that's left behind that can pick things up, kinetic? I mean, this video, there was cups flying, there was doors opening, there was pans flying. I mean, it looked convincing to me, but
Yeah.
there's always a part of me that having said that, I've had family members with my mother-in-law lived in a farmhouse for many years, very old farmhouse. Again, I mentioned this in the first book. And you know, they had poltergeist activity. They had floating objects, they had doors slamming, they had electrical problems, they had footsteps, they had bangings on doors. They had times where Sarah's sister, who seemed to be the focal point of a lot of the activity, would tell this spirit to F off in no uncertain terms.
Mm.
And it would. It'd leave her alone for a few days.
It's wild.
And then it'd come back and they'd hear footsteps on the landing, on the stairs landing, first floor landing at night. And it'd always stop outside
It's
her
wild.
sister's room,
Mm.
and bang on the door. And you could hear her sister from the other side of the door shouting, "Will you F off?" And it'd F off for a few days again and then come back. And it was like a game.
Yeah.
So, that when you talk to somebody who are being absolutely honest with what happened,
Mm.
you then move on to that stage of, well, what is it? What's causing it? Um, and I really don't know. So going back to, in a roundabout way, you've asked me, do I believe in ghosts? Yes, I do, but what it is, I don't know. Is
Yeah.
it, is
Now,
is it?
the reason I asked that is obviously it's interesting for me to
Mm,
know. But so me, Sarah, and a couple of others went to a Masonic lodge a couple of weeks ago, last weekend, yeah, last weekend, Good Friday, and there's some evidence at this lodge that seemed too good to be true. So, and I made no bones about it with the people that run the I say the nights. It's not massively public, but run the experiments or whatever you want to call it. And I was honest with them and said, look, I'm skeptical. They knew I was skeptical about it all. I said, it's too good to be true. I've seen debunking videos for this thing. And I was like proper on it, ready to call out bullshit if I saw it. Because I couldn't believe it. We got there and my whole perception of what I thought was going on changed. So, not even from a paranormal point of view, we believe we were speaking to somebody from 1936,
right.
right, who believed they were alive and that we were the dead ones. And we asked them how they were communicating with us. Long story short, they, through series of knocks and whatnot, they said that they were talking to us via a Ouija board.
Right. That's
And,
interesting.
and I'm just like,
Mm.
what? Like, I was there. I was super skeptical. I was under this table. There was tapping. I was under the table. I had my hands there. I've recorded it. All these knocks happening all over the table. And
Could
I'm
that have been
like,
could that have been a port?
well, that's the thing. And there's two tables in this Masonic lodge, two different floors,
Yeah.
two different rooms, similar type phenomena, but
Mm.
with different people. And we had a word bank device um, that I programmed it myself, so I know exactly how it works.
Mm.
And it come up with the word Daisy. Now I don't know anything about this place, and the guy there, the head Masonic guy who was with us at that night, he was like, check out that name to one of the others, and the spirit we were talking to was called Daisy, and it come up on this word bank device, and then it come up with the word lodge,
Right. Yeah.
and it was just like, so then I was thinking, we had to reframe our questions as though we were the dead ones.
So from their perspective, they were talking to ghosts, which were you, and from
Yeah,
your perspective, you were talking to ghosts, which were them.
but were we? Are we still the ghost? Are we the ghosts?
I've often
It,
thought, yeah, you see, I've often thought this. It's a. Sorry, I was just leaning back because
no, it's okay.
my back was aching. That's better. I don't want the sound to go. That's all.
You get to a certain age.
Good. It is. You're right. Don't tell anybody I've got a birthday coming up. Um, but yeah, I mean that is really interesting because you see, one of the things I think about with like I mentioned with the Shadow Man is are we seeing something through a portal? So from their perspective, are they seeing me as a Shadow Man, or are they seeing me as a ghost,
Yeah,
or in fact is all this our last dying brain activity that we're reliving our life and ghosts that are around us that we interact with are actually real people, and
maybe.
it's our perception of. Yeah, it's weird.
It's,
It will blow you if you start thinking about it.
it's a
It will.
rabbit hole for
It is
definite.
a rabbit hole. I mean, there are so many different um, explanations of why things are the way that they are. You
Yeah.
know,
And we're going back to that place in 2 weeks today, actually.
yeah.
And we're
That's
taking
one of the most interesting things I've heard in a long time, and I'm not just saying that.
it was a
That- that-
mind-blowing thing. I'll tell you,
yeah, I mean that
cannot
actually
explain it.
um, that sort of uh, backs up my thoughts that I've been having recently about what ghosts are
Mhm.
and are we perceiving them? Am I a ghost to somebody else? You know,
So we were
or
getting taps on tables. So we were saying yes and no, once for yes or twice for yes, once for no. And then we'd ask a question, we wouldn't get a tap at all. So we would reframe the question and we say, is it more complex than yes or no? And then you'd get a tap.
yeah,
So it was almost like trying to find this nuanced answer that wasn't available to us from a series of taps. It was like they were like, I don't even know how to answer this because it's a yes and it's a no, but it's a little bit more complex than that.
yeah,
And then we were asking to see if they could help get spirits through to us
mm,
from that weren't related. So essentially, like my dad, Sarah's mum, we were trying to see if there was any way that they could help facilitate a meeting, basically. And
yeah,
they were like, we don't. Long story short, they sort of said to us, we don't know if that's possible.
right.
And it was just like it was just all
Have you
I
done any
left there just like I
yeah,
didn't even know what to expect.
have you done any research into the place itself and whether pretty simplistic question, but back in the 1930s, was it used for people doing seances?
Don't believe it was. There's not much recorded history of.
Yeah. That would be too straightforward, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Really,
That would that would make it fit nicely.
that would, wouldn't it?
It seemed to they
Shit.
they were saying we were working out the years, and they've been doing going there every day for 6 months, and they're saying there appears to be a 30-year cycle. So we've got 2026, 1996, 1966, 1936 through their
Yeah,
questioning. Don't know
yeah.
why. And they were
Hmm.
like, every night we're here and we're asking questions, and other teams come in and do their questions. We have more questions that come off the back of it,
Yeah,
and almost no less after each session.
yeah,
And the same with me. I just thought, before doing all this, I just thought ghosts were dead people.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it appears to be so much
Well, there certainly appears to be
wild.
some mechanism
Mm.
for communication,
I
but
think that's a small part of it.
not only between locations, but between times.
Yeah, yeah. It's
There's a film. There's a film script in there, Greg, isn't
There
there?
is, there is.
There-
So we've been working on a theory called where it looks at person, object, and place. So that
Yeah.
if you're trying to pick up a telephone to speak to a dead person,
Mm,
essentially, or a ghost or a spirit or whatever, that the line will always be the strongest if you've got a person that they're connected to, a a location that means something, and an object.
yeah.
So we've been working on that, and I've got the plaque from my dad's cremation from the crematorium,
Mm,
and I've been in my living room here. I've got a table, a small table in front of my sofa, and I had a word bank device. I had my dad's plaque. I had all sorts of stuff, like Ouija boards, and I was going full on. I picked up the word device, and first of all, his first name come through, which was Brian. So I was like, right, I'm going to get the plaque. I'm going to get the plaque out now. I put it down. As soon as I did that, I picked up the word bank and the word Douglas come up. And his name was Brian Douglas Scott Tomlinson. He was known as Doug Douglas. That was it. He was known by his second name. And it
yeah.
was just so weird. And we've got the videos up on TikTok and all those places. But it was just because I had an object that's plaque, there was some kind of connection to it. Not a great one. The location didn't matter but I was the person. So we've been working on experiments like that to see if that allows us to be able to pick up the phone to
Mm,
to get a good connection. And mediums, for example, are the mobile phone, so they can be any location for that person. So I don't know. It's the more I look into it, the more experiments we do. We go to this place in Bacup in I don't even know, Lancashire.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Baker, so the Masonic Lodge in Bacup,
Ah,
and that's where we were we were doing these experiments, and we were there again in a couple of weeks to do some like live streaming and whatnot. But
yeah. No,
so
yeah, very interesting. That yeah, that's as I say, that's one of
mm,
the most interesting things I've heard for a while, actually. And
there's
it's
a definite
definitely
film in there somewhere, isn't it?
well, there is, yeah, but there's definitely more research, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's been great. It really has. I don't want to take up too much more of your time because I could speak to you for hours, and I
I'll
know
come back on again. Don't worry
yeah,
about
absolutely, absolutely. We'll have Ash on next time.
it. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
where can everybody find you? Where can they
Okay.
find the podcast? Where can
Yeah.
they find the book? Everything.
Okay. Well, the both the books are on Amazon. I'm
Cool.
also on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Flip Flop, as I call it, TikTok.
I see you post
Um,
up every now and again.
yeah, and yeah, it's a place that I find quite scary, really. The stuff that's on
Persuasive.
there. I remember when TikTok was just silly dances, and now it's you know there's a lot of weird stuff on there. I've actually got an all my links page,
Okay.
which if I send you
Hmm.
that link,
I'll put
if you
that in the
want to
notes.
put that in the notes. And that really is the best place for people to go to because that's then got links to everywhere. So to both the books, to me YouTube, to my podcast, to my website, my personal email address if you want to contact me. Um, I do get a lot of emails. I get a lot of stories from people, which is fantastic. I love people getting in contact with me. I love getting feedback. If people do use YouTube, if you go on and have a look at my YouTube channel, and if you like it, please do subscribe and follow. Um, Getting subscribers on YouTube is difficult. It's hard. I think it's the hardest platform
Mhm.
to get traction. I'm doing okay at the minute, but I'd love to have more subscribers. So if I could just ask for one thing, please just subscribe to my YouTube. But yeah, just have a look at the all my links. That's got everything on there, where I am across the whole internet, my own little corner of the internet. So yeah, probably the best place to go is to have a look at the all my links page and then just follow the links from there.
Cool. Well,
Yeah,
as always, Craig, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to
thank you.
um, chatting again. It'll be great to
Yeah,
have Ash on as well next time, and he'll be back for the next episode for anybody who's missing Ash and having to put up with me recently.
yeah, we don't need him, do we? We're all right. We can manage.
Absolutely,
We're
absolutely not.
absolutely
But yeah,
perfect. It's
as
been
always, Craig, absolute pleasure. It's
it's been
always a pleasure chatting to you. And
pleasure's been all mine. It's always great to just come on and we never have a script, do we? We just talk about what we talk about, and
yeah,
it's nice to be able to talk to people who've got the same outlook. So
definitely.
so yeah, brilliant. It's
Awesome.
absolutely great to talk to you. Thank you for having me on.
Nice one. Thank you so much.